What's up? My name is Cody, and this is my computer store. 3 years ago, I was working in a warehouse and selling computers out of my bedroom as a side hustle. Now, I'm running my own computer store with 2 full-time employees, and we're on course to achieve somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million in sales this year. From the start, I've promised to document my journey, and in this video, I want to honor that by sharing my most potent advice for anyone who wishes to accomplish something similar to what I've done and go from PC flipping side hustler to a successful computer store owner. Full disclosure, I'm not a millionaire, I don't own a Lamborghini, but what I've been doing so far has been working very well. I hope it continues to work well, and I hope that I can share with you the experiences that I've gained so far to help me get to this point and help you achieve something similar. I don't have a course to sell you. As of the time of recording, this video isn't even monetized. I just hope I can genuinely help out someone who enjoys building computers and wants to accomplish something similar to what I've achieved so far. If it helps even one person, then it's worth it for me to make this video. That's all, enjoy the video. Okay, rule number 1 for making money selling a computer. Computers are worth more than the sum of their parts. A lot of people who build computers and are technically inclined think of things too logically, too literally, too technically. People buy things based off of emotion. If a PC parts picker list says a computer is worth $2,000, you might think you're only justified in selling it for $2,100, $2,200, which is the sum total of its parts plus a small fee for assembling it. But think of it like this. When you're buying a house, you're not just selling the house as a sum total of the cost of the wood, of the labor, of the siding, of the materials that go into building that house. People aren't just looking to buy a house, they're looking to buy a home. When people are making a purchasing decision to purchase a house, they're imagining what it's going to feel like walking through the door, what it's like coming home from work every day and living in that house as a home. The house is worth more than the sum total of the cost of materials and labor it took to build it. It's just like buying a car. It's not just about the list of specs and the technical specifications that give a car its value. It's not just about the horsepower and the miles per gallon. It's not just about the processor and the graphics card and the FPS you're going to get. People make purchases based on emotion. There's so much that goes into a purchasing decision of a computer that goes beyond the technical specs and the raw value of the parts. People are going to shop based on how the computer makes them feel, how they imagine it's going to be like gaming with that computer on their desk for years. So the style matters, the presentation really matters, and basically look at the sale of the computer as facilitating the experience of a gamer or of a video editor or for whatever they're purchasing the computer for. Think of you as selling the experience of them accomplishing whatever they want the computer for versus just looking at it as a literal sum total of the parts of the computer. In the same way a real estate agent is going to sell a house as a home, you have to remember that it's worth a lot more than the sum total of the parts that go into making it. That leads us into rule number 2. Do not compete on price. As a small business, you're never gonna make it if you compete on price. You're going up against Dell, you're going up against HP. They're buying tens of millions of dollars worth of components in big batches. They've got connections. They're competing on economies of scale. You will not win. At the very best, if you compete on price, you're going to win the race to the bottom. What you have to do as a small business is focus on everything that the big guys can't do. You have to give a really quality product. You have to give a really quality experience, start to finish, as well as taking care of the customer after the sale. You have to give them something that they just simply cannot get purchasing it from a big box store. So you can't compete on price. You just have to give a tailored experience like no other to the customer that a company like Dell just simply cannot do at scale. And that's how you're going to succeed. You have to charge more than the big box stores, and you have to actually make it worth the customer's while to pay that little extra to get an experience as a client like no other. Let me give an example of why you can justify charging a premium over one of the big guys with rule number 3, which is offer a guarantee and actually honor it. Let's take, for example, you purchase a computer from Dell and 2 weeks after purchasing the computer, you start getting blue screens. It may have a warranty through Dell, but think about what it's like to actually claim that guarantee. You're going to have to call the call center if they actually have one. Wait on hold, wait on hold. Once you get through, you might have someone who doesn't care about their job, who's just reading off a script. If you can convince them to honor the guarantee, they're going to tell you to ship it off to their facility. Your computer may be gone for weeks. By the time you actually get it back, it might have been a month or more. You may have had to pay some money for shipping and whatnot. Now, let's say they buy a computer from you. 2 weeks later, they're experiencing an issue. Well, if your business is structured like mine, you're not going to be too far away from the client. They can just bring it in, or maybe you can even go to them and resolve the issue ASAP, and also be very accessible for the customer. So if they need your help, you should be just a phone call away, an email away, or a quick drive away. Something that a company like Dell just could never do at scale. They can have call centers, they can have warranties, but none of it is ever going to be an as easy as possible experience for the customer. You can only do that if you actually serve them at a local level and you do your best to actually guarantee it. So to touch upon the guarantee, computers break down, and no matter how thoroughly you try to test and vet your computer, people are going to encounter issues with computers. It's been that way since the inception of PCs. Sometimes things go wrong due to fault of user error. Sometimes things go wrong through fault of the hardware itself. Sometimes you have to send components back. Sometimes computers fail just through luck of the draw. It's just like a car, it can break down over time. So what you need to do is offer a guarantee where if there's any headaches at all, the computer can just be fixed nice and easy for the customer one way or another. So this circles back to what I was talking about a computer is worth more than the sum total of its parts. You could get a $2,200 computer from a small business like this, or a $2,200 computer from a big company like HP. Even if on paper they're identical, or even if on paper you got better specs for the price from a big company, in that same scenario where you have issues with your computer 2 weeks in, if you're dealing with a local business like this, you can just facilitate that experience to make it so much better for the customer. Even if you're servicing the same computer that they could have got from a big box store, just having you there to take that frustration of their computer not working, even if it's their own fault through user error, they just have a place to go and have their problems go away. Any business is fundamentally just how well you can solve problems for people. And if a gamer buys a computer, they're not just buying a list of specs. They're buying something that will facilitate the experience of enjoying their games. So if you can guarantee the computer and not be sleazy about it, but actually help people when they need you so that they can just let all their problems go away and get back to their gaming or their video editing or whatever they want, they're going to remember that. They're going to be a valued customer for life if you do a good enough job, and everybody's going to come out ahead. Everyone's going to be happy. So guarantee your computer. It's impossible to build computers with 100% reliability over time. However, if you offer a guarantee, what you can do is make sure that when those issues arise, you make it right one way or another. The worst thing you can do is offer a guarantee and then find every excuse to not actually help the customer. Something that's funny about psychology is that if you sell something to a customer, and this could be a computer or any other business on earth, and they initially have a negative experience, like let's say they have a blue screen, or they buy a car and it breaks down shortly after they buy it. If you then make it right to the customer, they're actually going to favor you more than if it had just worked all right. Because it's so rare now for people to actually offer good service in whatever business they're in, that it's such a breath of fresh air if you actually show up in good faith and you actually help your customers when they need you without a whole bunch of contingencies and excuses for why you have to deliver them a terrible experience. That's what all these big companies do because they're on economies of scale. They sell based on volume. They don't really care if the customer has a terrible experience because they're just going to market to a million other people that they can make that money back based on volume. As a small business, you have to build relationships with people and you have to actually honor your word and facilitate a great experience. And that includes when things go unexpected or things go wrong. Rule number 4, if you want to make good money selling computers. In the beginning, especially when you're starting out, it's much more important to make the sale to get the customer than to get the customer to make a sale. If for every customer you have, they send back at least 1.1 people more, 2 people more through their good experience and word of mouth, then it's only a matter of time until you hit that exponential growth and your customers just keep growing naturally because you're doing a great job. If what you do is sell a mediocre product, a mediocre experience, let's say you're sleazy with the guarantees, let's say you cut corners with the product and people don't enjoy it, well then, even if you spend thousands of dollars on advertising to get the customers to make the sale, they're never going to come back and they're all going to spread word of mouth to not do business with you, to not shop with you. You can't please everybody, but you have to do your best to act in good faith and please as many people as you can, because only then will your business grow and stand the test of time. Because even if you spread the word about your business to everyone in your area who you're trying to get as a customer, if they're not enjoying the actual experience that you give them when you get them as a customer, they're just not going to come back. So even if you advertise well and you get 10,000 people through your door who you make a sale on, you make a couple $100, they're never coming back. And it won't matter how much you spend on ads after that, they're just not going to come back. It's going to get too expensive to acquire new customers. At a certain point, it's going to backfire. If what you do is make the sale to get the customer, that means sometimes you sell a computer, you sell it with a guarantee, and then it costs you more to actually fulfill the guarantee, be honorable, and act in good faith than you actually made off the initial sale. Let's say you sell a computer with a guarantee and you make $400 off the sale. 2 years in, they need a graphics card replacement that should be covered under your guarantee, and you honor it. And that replacement graphics card cost you $500. Guess what? You've lost $100. It doesn't make sense on paper, right? But then you can actually look in the long run and realize because you did the right thing, that customer is likely to get their next computer from you, in which you can make back your $100 that you lost, $200 that you lost honoring the guarantee, make another couple $100, and guess what? Between the time when you honored the guarantee and you make that second sale from the customer to remake your money, they've already sent 3 people your way through good word of mouth because they're going to say, wow, I had a problem, I needed help, and they did it. No tricks, no small print. They just took care of the problem, and that's going to actually boost your lifetime value from the customer. So even if you end up losing money in some scenarios or not making as much as you could if you just milked them dry in the first interaction, you could have a customer over the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years who keeps coming back. And although you might lose a few hundred in the initial interaction having this mentality, your initial sale can lead you to building a relationship with the customer where they bring you thousands in business over time through 1, direct sales to them, and 2, referrals that you'll get for acting in good faith. So remember that it's not just about getting customers to make sales. It's very important to make sales to get customers. Rule 5, make it as easy as possible for the customer to buy a computer from you. What I mean by this is put yourself in the shoes of the customer and think, why would they not want to buy a computer from me? Let's say they actually want to buy a computer, they have the money for it, and they're just exploring their options. Why would they not choose you over any of the other options they have? Well, let's say they need it soon. Their computer just crashed and they need it now. The faster you can fulfill the order, the more computers you have ready built for them to choose from to be able to buy now, the more likely they are to buy. Because let's say you offer superior service and a superior product, but a competitor can fulfill their need for the computer in one day, while it takes you a week to fulfill the order, whether it's having to assemble it first, schedule the delivery. The faster you can get it to them, the better. What's another reason why they might not want to buy a computer from you? Well, let's say they're a console player and they're not really familiar with computers. Let's say they know what games they want to play, they know what sort of a computer they want in terms of style and whatnot, but maybe they're intimidated by the idea of setting it up. Maybe they have no idea how to update drivers and they have no idea what maintaining your PC entails. The more you can be there as a helping hand and say, look, I'll tell you everything you may need. I'll take care of you after the sale. I'll help you with the setup. The more likely it is they are to actually go through with the purchase, because sometimes you might check all the right boxes, but there's just that one thing in the back of their head that they might even be ashamed to admit, like, I really don't know how graphics driver updates work. I heard from my friends that you need to update your drivers. I don't know what that is. I've only ever played on Xbox or PlayStation with automatic updates. Well, the more you can make yourself available to ease that and say, look, whatever it is, whatever questions you may have, just let me know. The more you can grease the wheel and facilitate the experience, the more likely you are to actually get that sale to go through. Rule 6, what makes your product different from the rest? So you can't compete on scale, you can't compete with the likes of Dell, HP, etc., by just building the exact same product and trying to do it cheaper in some way. You just can't do that. You have to differentiate yourself. So, for example, we like to focus on computers with real custom paint jobs, really exotic cases, the types of computers that you just can't find anywhere else. You have to give people a reason to seek out what you're selling, even if what you're selling is not going to have as broad appeal as, say, like a Dell Optiplex office computer, where offices and businesses will buy hundreds at a time. You can still offer something that's of very high value to a smaller portion of people who will do whatever it takes to get their hands on it. So even though less people might want an exotic case or a really cool paint job on their computer, the people who do want that really want it, and they're willing to pay a little extra, and they're going to find you as long as you put yourself out there, because that's exactly what they want. So you don't have to do it exactly how we do it, and all you can really be, if you're just trying to replicate 100% what someone else is doing, is to be the second best version of what they are. So you need to figure out for yourself, how are you going to differentiate your service or your product to stand out from all the rest? Whether that's you lean full into workstations, or we build the quietest computers in the world, or we build the most reliable computers in the world. Whatever it is you're going to lean into, and for us, it's the sweet custom stylized gaming rigs. Whatever you lean into, broadcast that that's what you're all about. Broadcast that you're the best in the game at that specific market, and then just do a great job on actually delivering on whatever it is that differentiates you from all these other companies. Because remember, if you just try to replicate exactly what other people do, you're at best going to be the second best at it. So you have to carve out your own niche. You have to decide how you are different from all the rest, whether that's in the product itself or in how you service the product, or a combination of both. You just have to go all out on that one individualization and do a really great job of it. And that's how you're going to carve out your share of the market in whatever area you're competing in. Rule 7 is to test your computers very thoroughly before putting it in the hands of a customer. So although you have a guarantee, you honor the guarantee. It's so important to just nip the problem in the bud and minimize the amount of times you actually have to move forward with something like a guarantee, because you've just checked everything over and really stress tested the computer before putting it in the hands of the customer. Even if you have a great guarantee and you honor it, no questions asked, it's still an inconvenience for the customer to have to experience that, say, blue screen or issue with their computer in the first place. It's still a cost to them to have to drive it back to you for you to fix it free of charge or whatnot. It's better if we just avoid that altogether. Now, if you have any experience with computers, you know that sometimes you just can't help it. Sometimes things go wrong with tech. Doesn't matter what the device is. Sometimes you have component failure. Sometimes you have unexpected things happen when it comes to technology. But as much as possible, you have to lower the percentage of computers that actually come back to you with an issue. And how you do that is just make sure it's got all the proper drivers and software. Make sure it's thoroughly stress tested. Stress test everything, check the temperatures, make sure you have no blue screens, make sure everything is as rock solid as possible to lower the amount of computers that ever have to come back under your guarantee. And then for those that do come back under the guarantee, you're not overwhelmed and you can actually help them no matter what they need, because you're not drowning in computers constantly coming back because you've overlooked something that was preventable in the testing and benchmarking process. So be 110% sure that any computer that you sell is as thoroughly tested as possible. Number 8, I'm stealing this from a customer who used it when leaving us a positive review. It's a great way of wording things that I love, and it's stuck with me. A customer came in and had a great experience with us, and they said that we speak English, not tech. And it was just a great way of wording something that I've understood for a while, but have not been able to put into words until that customer coined that term. We speak English, not tech. You have to speak English, not tech, because the types of people to come in and buy a pre-built computer are probably the types of people who aren't overly familiar with technical specifications. It's like I said before, they're not buying a list of specs. What they're buying is a tool to help them get the experience they're looking for, whether it's gaming or video editing or 3D modeling. They might not necessarily know what you're talking about if you just spew out a list of specs. Let me give you an example. If a customer comes in and they say, hey, I'm looking for a gaming computer to play Elden Ring. I want to play Elden Ring with good graphics. What do I need? When you're showing them an option, you could show them a computer and say, hey, this computer will give you a great smooth experience in Elden Ring as long as you're gaming on a standard 1080p monitor with high graphics settings. It's very simple, and they're probably going to understand exactly what you mean by that. If you say, this computer is a great option because it has a Ryzen 9800X 3D with the 3D V-Cache, with an RTX 5080, with 16 gigabytes of GDDR7 memory, and 32 gigabytes of RAM, DDR4 running at 6,000 mega transfers a second, you're going to lose them. They're going to be like, wait, what? Like, they don't really care at the end of the day whether or not the computer has V-Cache or how many gigabytes of GDDR7 VRAM it has. They're just going to care that when they load up their game or they load up their software, it's going to work according to their expectations. So if customers want to go there, they want to talk specs, you can go as deep as the customer likes. However, unless they give you an indication that they actually want to enter that technicality, just keep it basic, keep it in layman's terms. They're going to be thankful for it because you're not going to bombard them with jargon that confuses them and makes them feel like they're uneducated. You're going to facilitate an experience that helps them get the end result that they want. So make sure that you speak English, not tech. Super, super important. Rule number 9 is make people feel good. This sounds so simple, but a lot of people who are technically minded, they're into computers, they might not really click all the time naturally with the idea of making people feel good. A business interaction is not so literal. You have to make people feel good, and no matter how good your product is, no matter how good your guarantee is, no matter how great your expertise, a customer is just not going to want to keep coming back, let alone send their friends and family to see you, if they don't really feel good. If they walk in and you just get straight to the point like, hey, you here for a PC? they're not going to really feel good, even if you check all the boxes. So start the interactions with, hey, how are you? Even if you're busy, even if you're having a bad day, put yourself in the shoes of the customer. From the time that they walk in to the time that they walk out, how are they left feeling about the entire interaction? Even if you check all the technical boxes, you have to make sure that the customer feels heard and feels good walking in and out of your facility. Ask them how their day's going. If they ramble a little bit, let's say they're buying a computer for their grandson and they start talking about what he's doing in school and what he's into, and even if it's not directly relevant to the sale, just make them feel good. Remember, these are human beings at the end of the day. Don't look at everyone like a unit. If you look at everyone as a unit on a spreadsheet as just another sale, you're going to be another Dell, you're going to be another HP. You don't want to be that kind of business because you're going to lose your edge. You're never going to last in the long run if you look at business like that and you're not already a monopoly. What you have to do is go the extra mile and cater to the human experience of people. Something that we like to do is we got mints at the cash. We got stickers that we can give out. If kids come in, we give them free little green dragon stickers. It doesn't matter that it costs a couple cents for them to have a free sticker. It doesn't matter if it costs a couple bucks a month for us to keep stocking the fresh mints. It matters that people come in and they feel good throughout the entire experience. If you do this, ironically enough, whatever you invest in terms of time, energy, and money in making sure that all of your customers feel great, it's gonna pay off in the end, both emotionally because it's the right thing to do, but also financially because they're gonna wanna keep coming back, and it's just a win-win for everyone involved. Cater to the human experience and make people feel good. If someone comes in and they got a wacky hairdo, tell them it suits them well. Things like that can actually go a super long way. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed when I go out to the typical chain store or whatnot, the employees seem almost annoyed that I'm asking them for help, that I'm trying to do business with them. You can tell they're uninvested. You can tell they're just there for the paycheck. And if that's how you feel about the business, you're just there to make money off these people, they're going to feel that and they're not going to want to keep coming back. So remember, make people feel good. Rule number 10, you're selling relationships, not computers. So this might sound like I'm now beating the dead horse. I've already touched upon this with the other rules, but I really just want to bring it home. It's about the human experience beginning to end. So for this rule, basically what I'm going to do is give you a few practical tips to kind of get the cogs turning in your head on how you can build relationships and really advertise who is selling the computers, not just what you are selling as a business. A lot of businesses, it's just a generic name. It would be, say, Alexandria Computers or Ottawa Computers or New York Computers with just a generic logo of a screen and a monitor or whatnot with no face attached to it. People really care who they're buying from. So here's some practical tips on how you can kind of convey who they're doing business with. Not just what you do as a business, but who you are as a business. So on your website, and you should have a website if you're going to be taking this seriously and selling a lot of computers online, you should have an our story or an about us. They want to know the story of like, who is this business? Who is this person? Where did they come from? What's their story? And they'll actually want to support and contribute and be a part of that story. It's not just about getting a computer to a lot of people. It's about getting their foot in the door and building that relationship with, okay, these people are going to be my computer people. That's my place. That's my go-to. These are my people that I want to do business with, not just because of what they do, but because of who they are. So another practical way to kind of help people understand who they're doing business with is attach faces to the business. It's not just a generic business name and a generic logo. Have it so that when you go on the website, They don't have to scroll for too long before they see who is there. And not just a stock photo. You can tell whenever something's genuine, and you can tell when something's just a cookie cutter placeholder. Put a photo of your face or your employees' faces or photos of happy smiling customers in the store if they're comfortable being part of content like that. Really show the human aspect of who is involved with this business and what their story is. If you do that, people are going to want to be a part of that story. And it's about more than just selling a machine. It's about human beings interacting with one another. Again, I know I'm probably like beating the dead horse here, kind of repeating myself, but these are just examples of practical tools you can use to convey who they're doing business with. It's so vitally important. Another practical example on how you can kind of build up the character of who is running this business is you can be very involved in your community. Don't just do things for the sake of making a quick buck. Don't just do things to milk people dry and make money off every opportunity. A good saying that I got from, I believe it was Gary Vee, is you have to give, and then get. And then you give and you give, and then you get, and then you give and you get, and then you give, and then you get, and then you give and get. And the more you give over time, the more likely it is for you to get. Your customers don't care who you are. Your customers don't know who you are until you've started the relationship with your community, with your customers, by giving first. So do things for your community, even if it doesn't fully relate to business. Like do things like support other businesses in your community, even if they're completely outside of the actual industry that you're in. You know, I like to spend time supporting and promoting local restaurants that I like in our community, ran by other small business owners. I like to do giveaways. I like to do like free promotional stuff for individuals and other small businesses in the area with no direct incentive to make money. It's not like a buy something and you get a chance to win. It's not a go to this business and we'll give you 10% off when you come here and buy something. It's just no strings attached. Just help people and do things for the community for the sake of doing it. Because one, from a financial perspective, if you show that you're a person of good character, people are just naturally going to want to gravitate to that and do business with you, so it can pay off in the long run financially. But also, this is actually more important, or at least should be more important for you. You're just going to actually feel good. You're not just going to be running a business like Dell or like HP to siphon money out of everyone you can and look at human beings like statistics on a spreadsheet. What you're doing is actually attaching a purpose to what it is you're doing. And yes, you have to make money, you have to pay your bills. There's nothing wrong with accomplishing your financial goals, but you have a greater purpose where you're actually being of service to the community. You're going to feel so good spiritually. This is just how you should operate as a human being in general. So not only from a business perspective, but just from a society at large perspective. What kind of a person do you want to be? If you genuinely want to be involved in your community and help people, no matter what business you're in, whether it's selling computers or it's selling cars or it's running a grocery store, if you are actually involved in helping people and you make a real impact, it's going to go a long way in one, growing your business, but also growing humanity as a whole and just making the world a better place for everyone to live in. So don't ever forget that saying. It's so true. It's going to pay off spiritually and financially. Give, get. Okay, rule number 11. I'm going to touch upon a concept that is really important once you start gaining traction and you're not just looking for sales anywhere you can get them, but you're actually getting in the flow of things, and you have to start putting your time, energy, money, and attention into the things that matter the most. So this concept is called the power of no. So rule number 11, the power of no, scope creep. You have to watch out for scope creep. You have to determine what services and products do I actually offer and make sure you stay in your lane. A lot of people are going to have it in their heads that, okay, well, you fixed my computer, so maybe you can fix this GPS that I have that I want you to fix too. Or, oh, you fixed my computer, maybe you can also help me fix this blender that I broke. This blender, the button's not pushing in or whatnot. And when I first started, I was just trying to help any customer in any way I can. So it's like, well, technically I could solder a new cable on and fix that. Or, oh, technically I could pop open your GPS and try to figure out what's wrong with it. But it's just inefficient and it's not your specialty. So even if you're leaving money on the table, sometimes it's best to just say, no, sorry, that's outside of my scope. What I offer is computers, computer repair, et cetera, whatever that scope is for you based on your goals, your business structure, and your personal desires and abilities. Make sure you can clearly define what your scope is. And whenever a customer steps outside of that, politely decline and say, no, sorry, it's outside of the scope of what we do. Another good example of this is Linux. A lot of people who want to buy these computers will sometimes ask you a question like, I heard that Linux is good. Can you install Linux? And I'm just going to be upfront. I've used Linux in the past. I'm a little familiar with it, but I cannot navigate effectively in the same way that I can Windows. I've got to start Googling different commands and whatnot to get things to work. So because I won't be able to facilitate that experience, if they have driver issues or if they have questions that go beyond a basic level, I just simply cannot cater that professional experience if I install Linux for the customer. And sometimes they'll push you and say, it's what I want. It's what I want. But even if it means they don't buy the computer from you because you're not willing to install Linux for them, well, that's okay. You've stayed within your scope and you've avoided a potentially negative experience that you would have had because you're trying to make the sale and you're just putting money before the actual experience of the customer. So watch out for scope creep. It doesn't matter what the customers are asking of you. If it's not something you're comfortable or if it's not your highest leverage opportunity, for example, you do know how to fix the GPS, but you'd be much more efficient with your time just building another PC and selling it in terms of, what you want to do, what you enjoy doing, and what makes you the most money. Just stay within your scope. It removes friction. And I guess it's a position of privilege to be able to decline business that you technically could do. But once you're at that point where you really have to manage your time and focus your energies on the highest leverage activities, you got to remember, say no if it's outside of your scope. It's as easy as that. Now, here's another rule revolving around the power of no. The power of no is super important with pricing. A lot of people have it in their heads that because they're dealing with a small business, you can be flexible on pricing, they can haggle and they can negotiate. And I find it a little funny because never do people go to the cashier at Walmart, never do people go to the cashier at the grocery store and say, hey, can you waive the tax? If I pay cash, can you waive the tax? Oh, come on, can you take 20% off that? Or, hey, I can get this cheaper online. Can you lower the price for me? People have the courtesy and the respect to not do that at a big box store, but for some reason, some people have it in their head to do that at a small business. And the power of no is so important here. Just say, no, sorry, all the prices are firm, not up to negotiation. That's simply it, the power of no. You don't have to entertain it. You can stop it in its tracks. Just say no. If you give in and you lower your margins and you start giving certain people discounts, other people not, one, you're not creating a good experience for the customer base as a whole, because why should one person have to pay full price or pay the tax when another person doesn't? It's best you just avoid that altogether. Trust me, the types of customers you may lose because you refuse to negotiate in this way or make exceptions in this way is actually going to save you a lot in the long run, because it's not the type of relationship you want to build. You want to build a relationship where you give to the customer and the customer gives to you. You don't want the relationship to be one way in either direction. You don't want to hose the customer, milk the customer, give them a bad experience, and just try to extract every dollar you can. In the same way that you don't want to give that to your customer, you don't want your customers to give that to you. So remember the power of no. If you have a set policy, if you have a set price, just say no when people try to go outside of those boundaries. Rule 13, the power of no as it relates to saying no to the customers who aren't right for you. So not every customer is going to be the exact fit for your business, and that's totally okay. You're able to tell them. So let's say a customer comes in, and what you specialize in as a business is, we're not the cheapest, but we offer the best service, we offer the best quality product. But they come in and they express, I've got a budget of 200. I just need the cheapest possible computer. I don't care if it stinks. I don't care if it's full of cat hair. I don't care if it's falling apart. I just want the cheapest computer possible. And if that's not your business, it's okay to tell them, sorry, I don't think you're a right fit for what it is that we offer. And that's okay. You don't have to literally tell them like that, but just be polite and say, okay, well, maybe you should try looking here, or maybe you should check out Marketplace and buy used. What you have to do is say no to the customers who aren't really the right fit for your business. A lot of people think of business as like a purely sales thing, where it's like, sell me this pen. But if what someone really needs is a pencil, because they're walking in and they're an artist and they want to be able to do shading and they want to be able to do perfect portraits, and all you sell is pens, you're not doing anyone a favor by forcing a pen down their throat, because really what they need is the lead of a pencil to achieve the desired outcome they're looking for. So instead of trying to force a square peg through a round hole, what you have to do is just accept that not everyone's going to be a perfect fit for your business, and that's okay. And here's the last rule, Rule 14, on the power of no, which is more bigger picture, not so much specific to PCs, but just so important. If you actually have a vision, if you want to make something of your hobby of building PCs, if you want to build a business, and if you want to take things seriously, you have to learn the power of no in terms of structuring your life around what the end result is. Let's say you want to sell computers for money and you want to turn it into a business like this. You have to be willing to be an exception. By definition, if you want to do something exceptional, like not work a traditional job and be successful in being an entrepreneur and running your own business, you by nature have to be an exception. If you start doing a lot of work, if you start grinding, if you start taking your business very seriously, people are going to start to notice, and it's outside of what most people do. So they're not going to really understand at first why you have to say no. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have a lot of work to do in order to fulfill customer orders. Things are going well, you're taking your PC building seriously, you have 2 computers that you need to build, it's time sensitive, you got to deliver them in 2 days, and it's going to take you about 2 days to assemble them and test them. And then while you're working on it, you get invited. It might be your best friend. It might be a family member who you really love. And they might say, hey, come over, let's do this thing. Hey, let me invite you to this thing. And you're going to have to tell them no. You might be seen as antisocial. You might be given advice like, you're overworking yourself. Don't work so hard. Or make sure you make time for yourself. You got to have time to relax. But the thing is, if you keep giving in to other people's expectations, if you're not willing to be an exception, you're not going to accomplish the exceptional thing. So if you want to be there every time the phone rings, if you want to never miss a family function, if you want to go out with your friends 2-3 times a week, If you want to never let people down, well, you're just like everybody else. You're way less likely to accomplish the exceptional thing. And let me just say right here, that's totally okay. If you never want to take it to the next level, if you don't want a red line, if you want work-life balance, that's okay. You can just sell PCs as a side hustle. It doesn't matter if that's what your priorities are. But if your priority is truly at any cost, I want to take this vision that I have and I want to bring it to fruition, you're going to have to utilize the power of no. Even if you genuinely want to be at the family function, even if you genuinely want to go camping for a week with your friends and wind down business for a week and take that time off, it's going to come at a huge cost in terms of opportunity cost. So if you want to be very serious about accomplishing what it is you're setting out, you're going to have to become comfortable being the exception to do something exceptional. Learn the power of no, and it's okay if your values and your priorities don't align with that of all of your friends and family. There's a reason most people are just employees. There's a reason most small businesses end up failing in the long run. This is very hard to do. But if you want to be one of those exceptions, utilize the power of no. You got to do what you got to do. And that's okay. As long as it's what you genuinely want to do, you don't have to answer to anybody. Rule number 15, give yourself enough time to succeed. You can click on my YouTube channel and see years and years ago, I was posting dozens and dozens of videos showcasing the pre-built gaming PCs that I was selling on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace. And they'll have 5 views, 10 views, 15 views. And I just kept posting them over and over and over again. I was working just as hard then, applying just as much effort then as I am now. And the actual financial payout of that, in terms of measurable success, was a fraction of what it is now. I was applying the same effort, but I just didn't have the same leverage that I have now that I'm further in the process. I was grinding away, delaying gratification. And it's very hard because a lot of the time you're doing all the right things. You're working as hard as you have to work, but you just have no choice but to give it time to grow over time and trust the process. It's very hard to put in that level of work when you don't have immediate measurable results. When you have to put in all this work with no guarantee that it's actually going to amount to any level of measurable success. You have to stick with it though. Think of it like cooking a turkey. Let's say it takes 3 hours to cook a turkey at 350 degrees. You can't just set your oven to 700 degrees and expect the turkey to cook just fine at 1.5 hours. You're gonna burn it. It's all gonna go to shit. You have to just go through the motions, trust the process, and keep going. Sometimes you're doing all the right things, you're just not doing it long enough. I've been doing this for many years, working different jobs and selling computers on the side and just continuing to snowball it with no guarantee that it was ever actually gonna pay off. But guess what? A few years later, it's starting to actually pay off. My efforts are starting to compound, and I'm just now, while applying the same level of effort, sacrifice, and work that I did years ago with no reward, well, now finally that same effort, because I've held on for the ride and trusted the process, I'm now starting to hit that exponential growth curve, that compounding growth curve where it's starting to pay off. And I'm really excited to see just how long that exponential growth is going to keep going while I'm still just applying the same effort and sacrifice I have this whole time. It's just only now I'm getting recognition because I'm further along in the process, and you can't rush it. That's why it's important, if you're passionate about building PCs or whatever your thing is, to just stick with it and enjoy the process. Even if it ended up not working out from the start, I emotionally accepted that at the very least, I'm not going to leave it up to chance. I'm going to give 100% effort, and if it doesn't work out, well, there's nothing else I could have done differently. So I would have been at peace with it. Where you're going to start beating yourself up is if it's been a few years, you've been going through the motions, but half-heartedly, and you don't really get where you want to go, and you give up. Well, there's going to be a part of you eating away thinking, oh, you know what? I could have worked a little bit longer. I could have worked a little bit harder. I could have taken a little more risk. If you do everything that you ought to do and it still doesn't work out, you'll probably find your peace with it. But more often than not, if you actually do all the things that you ought to do, you're actually going to get the end result you want. It's only a matter of time. And sometimes it's going to be more time than you actually hope for, but that's just the nature of it. You can't double the temperature of the oven and cook the turkey in half the time. You just got to keep doing what you do. A good idea that I got from Alex Hormozi, who is a really great guy I listen to on podcasts and YouTube videos about business. It goes something like this. Work so hard that it would be unreasonable for you not to succeed. If you're truly gung-ho, locked in, and you're doing all the right things, it would literally be unreasonable for you not to succeed. So while you can't force time frames, you can control your habits, your choices, and your actions. So if you keep working so hard and doing all the right things that it would be unreasonable for you not to succeed, you're probably going to succeed. So remember that. Give yourself enough time to succeed. Okay, number 16. I feel like we've touched on a lot of big picture stuff, more abstract business concepts. So let's get back to more practical PC tips. So number 16 is super simple. Don't slack on cable management. I've seen so many high-end computers come into the store or being built online where it's a super beast computer. The components are all well chosen. They're all good matches for one another. There's no bottlenecks. They're all aesthetically pleasing. But you have crisscross cables going in one direction or the other, or a rat's nest of cables visible from the glass side panel. And it's something that is just so tedious where, you don't want to spend 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes getting the zip ties out, making all the wires parallel and whatnot. But think of it. You've already invested all the hundreds or thousands of dollars into the build, getting the parts. You've invested all these hours into building the PC, getting Windows on it, stress testing it, posting it online for sale, marketing it. You might as well spend a couple minutes and just make sure the cable management is nice. This is the difference between buying from a professional, buying from a business, or just getting your PC built DIY by watching a few YouTube tutorials or getting your buddy to assemble it for you. It's just going to look different. It's going to feel different. Even if the customer doesn't meticulously, with the magnifying glass, inspect every single cable and zip tie, the computer just overall is going to feel higher end. It's going to feel more professional if you don't get lazy on the cable management. Just practice due diligence, manage your cables. It sounds super simple, but it's just a discipline thing. Clean cable management is the difference between a professionally built computer and an otherwise well-built DIY computer. Rule 17, clean your computer before showcasing it to your customers. This sounds so simple, but it kind of goes back to my Kijiji, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace days. There are so many people who have the technical knowledge to build a computer. They build a great rig. Maybe they're even selling it for an attractive price. Maybe they're even selling it with a guarantee. They're checking all the boxes, and yet there's visible fingerprints on the computer. There's little bits of liquid stains or specks of dust. And it kind of is like the cable management thing where you just have to practice discipline and clean it. The difference between buying a used computer from a DIY builder or getting your buddy to build it in his house while his cat's walking on it and hairs are getting in the fans and stuff, is going the extra mile and just cleaning it. Even if it's all new parts and you get smudges and whatnot all over it, just wipe it with the glass cleaner. Here it is. We go through a lot of glass cleaner here because computers are basically built of glass now. Clean off the fingerprints, No hairs, no dust bunnies, no insects hiding in the little nooks and crannies of the power supply if you're selling a refurbished computer. You've just got to practice due diligence, clean your computers, make them very presentable. It's going to go a long way. Again, it might not be something the customer is really scrutinizing consciously, but they're just going to feel a little different about taking home a computer that's pristine and super clean versus one that has a couple little smudges, cat hairs, things like that. Offer a clean computer in all ways. Rule number 18, prioritize price to performance when selecting components for a build. This kind of circles back to the whole speak English, not tech. The customer isn't so concerned with the specific specs in the computer. They're more so concerned with what kind of a gaming experience are they going to get? What's their FPS going to be like? What's their game going to feel like? What graphic settings are they going to be able to run at? And they don't so much care about what the PC parts picker list says. They care more about what kind of an experience they're going to be taking home. So in line with this, when you're selecting components, make sure you prioritize most of your budget towards maximizing FPS per dollar. So, for example, the overwhelming majority of the computers we sell pre-built, we use the mid-range motherboards. So it's not such a low-end motherboard that it doesn't have the features they might want, like, say, built-in Wi-Fi or the ability to have more than 2 RAM slots. You don't want to skimp out too much. But the average people buying a pre-built gaming computer, they don't care if you have an X870 motherboard with 5 NVMe slots and advanced overclocking functionality and whatnot. You can run the same chip, the same graphics card in a B850 or a B650 motherboard, save $100, $200 on the actual cost of building it, and they're going to get the exact same FPS when they come home. If you're building for a specific person who says, I need a lot of storage, I need 20 terabytes of NVMe SSD storage built into my motherboard, in those cases, you have no choice but to seek out the more premium option for motherboard, et cetera, et cetera. But for the vast majority of gamers just wanting to buy a computer that looks cool, runs well, they don't care about having a high-end motherboard. They don't care about having a super high-end power supply. Again, don't skimp out and get a no-name, super Chinese power supply that crashes under load. But it's totally fine to put an 80-plus bronze. It's totally fine to put a 750 watt in a system that only draws 600 watts at peak versus going the extra mile and putting an 850 watt or 1,000 watt power supply. People don't really care. It's not going to impact their FPS. So as long as it functions, as long as it's not actually going to diminish the real world experience of the customer, you can save money on peripheral, more accessory components to the core gaming components. So motherboard, power supply, even case. You don't have to go too crazy on, as long as you invest the majority of your budget in processor, graphics card. Don't do something crazy like install an OS on a hard drive because it's more terabytes per dollar. Again, I'm not saying go the extreme in the other direction, but find that sweet spot where you can offer a great gaming experience without just blowing the customer's money. Because remember the speak English, not tech thing? You could sell them on a premium computer saying it's got all the highest end components, and you can charge them $3,000 for a computer that has the X870 motherboard, that has the most premium power supply that's rated for 400 watts more than the components will ever draw. But you could have sold them the same computer for maybe $2,600 and saved them $400, and their game is going to run the exact same way. And they're not even going to care. They're not even going to notice the difference. So even if you could get away with selling them the more all-out premium option, you're actually doing them a service by saving them a couple $100 and giving them that same experience. Because You're choosing the components on their behalf if you're selling them a pre-built or a custom-built computer. So unless they've specifically expressed that those more premium features, for example, more drives on an X870 board, just go with the better value option and put the budget into what they actually care about. The style of the computer, performance of the computer. You can't go wrong going for performance per dollar. Rule 19 is offer a trade-in program. Oftentimes when you're selling a computer, these people might have a previous build or they might have parts hanging around in their closet. If you offer a trade-in program, you can get a lot of components at a great price for you to refurbish and resell or use in your more budget builds. And you're also offering a convenience for the customer. So if you're selling a computer, just ask the person, what are you doing with the old computer? Do you have any ideas for the old computer? And if they already have an idea, like they want to give it to their brother, or give it to their son, or give it to their daughter, or give it to their neighbor, it doesn't matter. Let them do what they want to do. But by allowing them the option to do a convenient, easy trade-in, you can probably get components and old computers at a great price, even though you'll have to put in the work to test it, to clean it, to refurbish it, maybe mix and match parts to make it into something that's sellable for the next person. It's worth doing because people, in my experience, absolutely hate having to put in the work and put in the effort of listing their computer on Facebook Marketplace, making sure their data is securely erased and going through all the motions. Sometimes they have no use for their old components and their old computers, and they just want to get rid of it convenient. So I'll usually tell people, I think if you sell this yourself on Facebook Marketplace or on Kijiji, you could probably get somewhere around $800 for it. As a business, what I can offer you for a secure and easy, convenient trade-in, I could offer you $550. And I tell them you can keep that as a fallback offer too if you want to try listing it and selling it yourself. If you get no bites, you can just bring it in for the trade-in. And sometimes they'll do that. But more often than not, if they don't already have a plan for what they're going to do with those old components, they're just going to want to trade it in for some quick and easy cash, and you're actually doing them a favor. The amount of people who will just buy a new computer and then put the old computer in the closet because they just don't feel like dealing with factory resetting it, selling it, dealing with Facebook Marketplace people going, is this available? Is this available? They just let it sit as opposed to you actually offering them a service of a convenient trade-in while leaving a window where you could actually make profit and sell it to the next person for a good deal. It's a win-win all around. The customer gets rid of something they don't want and need very easily and frictionless. You get components and budget systems at a price that you can't get anywhere else. And then 3, you're saving it from just sitting to waste in the landfill or in someone's closet. You're actually putting in the work to clean it and refurbish it, or I hope you are, going in and repasting the GPU, repasting the CPU, stress testing it, upgrading it need be. And you're taking something that otherwise would be underutilized, something that would just be sat to collect dust, and you're turning it into something of value that someone's actually going to want if you fix it up and resell it. It's a win-win for everybody. So have a trade-in program. It's so important. So rule number 20, the little things count. So let me give you an example of little things that count. When we have a themed build, let's say it's a black and red computer, I'll use red zip ties. Who else is going to go through that? If you open up a Dell computer or an HP computer, are they going to color match the zip ties to the rest of the build? No, they don't care. They're just going to buy a million in bulk in big skids and just use the same color ones. Who's crazy enough to actually use red zip ties for the red themed computer? We are. And that adds up. It's not going to sell anyone on a computer, but that, in addition to a dozen other little things that we put into it, just make it feel more complete, more personal, more of quality. It's something you might not even consciously register, but it just adds to the overall feel of the experience. Wow, it's even got red zip ties. It's well cable managed. It doesn't have fingerprints and cat hairs on it. All these things add up. Another thing we do is we do the courtesy of creating a local user account for the customers in Windows installing all the necessary drivers and softwares they may need, whether that's their RGB software or their graphics drivers or their Wi-Fi and Bluetooth drivers. We just do that for them. We disable OneDrive, we disable Microsoft Teams so they're not met with pop-ups and unnecessary bloat running in the background. They can re-enable that if they want it, but we just do the courtesy of optimizing the computer and making it as easy as possible for them to just open it up and have just a clean, high-performance experience. All those little things adding up. Another thing we do is talking about the red zip ties for a red themed PC. We have wallpapers that we include on all the computers with the Alexandria Customs logo in all different colors. We got a red one, a blue one, a yellow one. So when they open up their computer, it's not just like the random nature scene that Windows will put in the background. It's branded in a way that's not intrusive. I'm not engraving the Alexandria Customs logo right on the side panel, so they're forced to just constantly stare at the logo. It's just a wallpaper image file, color matched to the theme of the computer. It just adds to the overall feel, like, wow, they even went and gave me a red wallpaper to go with the red zip ties. Just little things like that. Even if they change their wallpaper after, it doesn't matter. They can just delete the folder. It's not bloat. It's not like pre-installing McAfee where they get pop-ups and it's super hard to uninstall. It's just a little file, a little something color matched to them, personalized, to just build the brand and add that little extra something. But the sum total of all those little extras that you do just makes that difference between buying a used computer or buying a computer from one of the big companies who fill it with bloat and junk that you don't want, trying to milk every dollar from you, and a professional, locally built computer. That's what you're going for, a professionally local built computer, and all those little things add up. Lastly, rule 21, enjoy the process. This sort of circles back to the whole give yourself time to succeed. You got to enjoy the process. I assumed if you're still watching at this point in the video, you're passionate about computers just like me. You genuinely enjoy building computers. Maybe you're a gamer. Computers kind of get your rocks off in the same way they get mine off. You have to enjoy that process. There's a funny way of looking at things when it comes to business. They say, don't try to make money with the things you love. And that's because, let's take the example of a baker. A baker loves baking cakes, so they start their own bakery. They're baking cakes all day. They love what they're doing. They're doing a great job of it, so the bakery starts doing well. So they start selling more cakes, and they hire people to bake even more cakes to grow the business because it's going so well. They now have employees that they're managing, and they spend less time baking cakes because they're doing the scheduling for their employees. They're checking the compliance for running the whole facility to make sure all of that's going well. They're making sure their systems are tight. So they're spending less time baking cakes so that they can employ people to keep baking cakes because things are going well and the cakes are selling. Things are going so well that they open up multiple bakeries and they actually decide to franchise. They love making cakes so much that they built a whole franchise to where now they're selling cakes not just in their own city, but throughout their entire state or their entire province. And then they wake up one day and they find themselves spending 99% of their time managing the franchise and the systems and the business in place to make all these cakes and sell all these cakes, when in reality, the whole reason they started the bakery was because they loved making cakes and they wanted to make cakes all day. So at a certain point, you have to realize if you want to see something through, if you're in it for the long haul, you have to get enjoyment out of it. So something I try to make sure I allow myself to do is, even as the business keeps growing and I have to manage more and more things, put out more and more fires, focus on the more bigger picture stuff, I allow myself moments to have fun and enjoy the process. I allow myself to still bake cakes. Even if there's higher leverage activities I can do, even if I'm needed elsewhere, I will set aside time sometimes to just build a PC, to just have fun with the process. I think back to my 16-year-old self and like wow, what would my 16-year-old self think of me now, 27 years old, running this computer store with access to all this sweet hardware, access to all these cases and graphics cards to put together in any way I like to make sweet PCs? My 16-year-old self would be like, that's sick. That's awesome. That's badass. So while my modern self is here thinking, oh, I'm so stressed out about all these emails I have to reply to and all these bills I have to pay and all these processes I have to implement and these people that I have to manage, I put myself back in the shoes of the 16-year-old self and be like, oh, you know what though? It is pretty badass. And I can take a moment to step aside from all of that while not neglecting it for too long. But I can take a moment to step aside from all that and just build a sick PC. Let me just do something cool today. Let me have fun. Let me bake the cake. Let me forget about the franchise and just go back into baker mode for a while. So no matter how big this business gets, I don't ever want to keep myself from baking a cake when I feel that's what I ought to do. So if ever I feel like building a sweet PC, if I ever want to just stop and smell the roses, I'm going to do that, because you're never going to find success if you're in a mode of pure burnout. You're going to learn to resent what it is you initially loved, because it's turned into this abomination where it's just pure business all the time. If you're actually enjoying what you do and you allow yourself to enjoy what you do, I think you'll be more productive in the end. So that's all I really have to say. I hope these are useful for you. All these rules are in no particular order. I'm just spitting out these ideas and they're all just based on my own personal experience. I hope I can make more videos like this in the future as I continue to learn and to grow. Who knows where this business is going to be in 1, 2, 3 years time. So maybe I'll make another video then based on what I've learned between now and then. It's just constantly evolving and changing. I'm still learning and growing. I'm by no means the best business guru in the world. I'm by no means a seasoned veteran in business. It's only been a couple years for me, but I'm just a guy who's been trying really hard. It's been working well so far, and I appreciate you coming along for this video and getting a glimpse into this journey with me. And I really hope that I could provide some value for you. If there's anything I didn't touch upon in this video, if there's anything you'd like to ask me, I'm an open book. You're welcome to leave it in the comments. If you just want to share your story, if you're doing something similar, or you're a PC flipper, or maybe you even run a PC store of your own, feel free to leave a comment and we can chat about it. I check them regularly. I'll keep doing that for as long as I can keep it up. And that's all. Feel free to share this video, like this video, subscribe if you want to show some support. And other than that, have a great day. See ya.